You're listening to Financial Advisor Marketing, the best show on the planet for financial advisors who want to get more clients without all the stress. You're about to get the real scoop on everything from lead generation to closing the deal. James is the founder of theadvisorcoach.com, where you can find an entire suite of products designed to help financial advisors grow their businesses more rapidly than ever before. Now, here is your host, James Pollard.
Financial advisors, I have another episode with a fantastic guest. I rarely have guests on the Financial Advisor Marketing Show, but when I do, I make sure that they are exceptional caliber because I want to deliver you nothing but the best. And this week, I have Larry Sprung. He's a published author. He's a content marketer. He is a wealth advisor. He is the guy when it comes to, we'll talk about things like stuff he's done that has worked well in the past, stuff that's working now, his biggest regrets in business. He loves to talk about things that bring people joy. You don't see the video of financial advisors, but he's wearing a shirt right now. What did you do today that brought you joy? And I absolutely love that. He has a book that digs deep into this topic, which I'm sure we'll talk about. So Larry, thank you for being here. Introduce yourself and let us know what you're all about.
Yeah, thanks, James. It's a pleasure to be here. And thank you for having me on the show and share my story with your listeners. I'm very grateful for that. So first and foremost, I'm a husband to Denise. We've been married for 24 plus years, and a dad to Zach and Jeremy. And, family is really everything to me. My family extends even beyond those individuals and our extended family. That extends to our stakeholders here at Mitlin Financial, and as well as the families we serve. So we just celebrated in 2024 our 20th anniversary in the business, in the profession, serving families. And we're really honored and grateful every day to do the great work that we're doing and helping the many families that we're able to assist on a day-to-day basis. It's just very gratifying work.
What was the catalyst? What was the thing that got you involved in the financial advice business? What's your origin story, I should say?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So, I grew up in what I would call a middle-class household. Our family was not wealthy. We weren't poor either. My dad was a New York City school teacher. And in addition to teaching full-time, he also had he had a company. So he had a side gig before they were called side gigs. He also taught college in the evenings. And unfortunately, I saw him working really hard, and my mom was diagnosed with cancer at the age of 13, and when I was 13. And watching my dad try to juggle all of these things, taking care of the family, myself and my sister, my mom, and looking back on that as I got older and older, and she ended up unfortunately passing away about 10 years later. I started looking back at that, and my dad never had a financial advisor. He never had anybody to lean on him that he could trust with, financial questions and, planning, et cetera. And I started thinking about, well, what if he did? Would that have made things a little bit and released some of the burden that he had, because he had so many things that he was juggling? And not that it would have mitigated anything with my mom's situation, but I feel like maybe he would have felt a little bit more comfort, had a little bit more time available. And I started exploring the path of being a financial advisor right when I was in college. I took an internship, and it was something that really resonated with me and has stuck with me. And, I've known nothing different. I left school and came into the profession right out of college. That's all she wrote, I guess.
And you know what? I've discovered that a lot of financial advisors or successful financial advisors have origin stories like that, where there's something that deeply impacted them, and they bring a level of authenticity to the table that can't be replicated easily. I mean, it can't be faked, period. And I think you have that. And I'm sure that your clients feel that, and they just feel that sense of caring and compassion that is not available in many other places. One specific question, I saw this in your book, but I think the audience would like to hear this story. What is the story behind your company name, Mitlin Financial?
Yeah. So, we're on a marketing podcast, right? So as we're starting to think, my wife and I, and we were thinking about launching this firm back in 2004, as you're probably aware, there are a lot of advisors out there. Their firm is, their last name and associates or
Yes,
whatever
that's
and
true.
whatever, And I was like, this isn't really about me, right? It's about the families we serve, and it's about the people that, at that time we had nobody working for us, but it was at the time, who's going to be working for us and what that's all about, and something that would be bigger and live, longer than I will, right? So we started thinking, and essentially my wife and I met in a unique way. My mom, Linda, who is the LIN in Mitlin, and her grandfather, Mitchell, who's the MIT in Mitlin, they passed away literally within hours of each other. And at the time, my wife and I did not know each other. And we met several months later. We started reconciling why we were where we were and what we were up to. And we basically put together this fact that these two people passed away within literally hours of each other. And, those people, I never had the opportunity to know or meet Mitchell, and she never had the opportunity to meet my mom. But, they were very similar in a lot of ways. Really great family values. Family was super important to them. Mitchell was a veteran. He was the type of guy that when the ice cream man came down the block, he would buy ice cream for all the kids that were hanging out outside, not because he was wealthy, but it made him feel good. My mom, because of her battle with, breast cancer, she was really looked up to in the community as a fighter and somebody who was so family driven and value. And when we started thinking about these people, we're like, hey, maybe we could take their name somehow and, create a firm from that. And we came up with Mitlin, and we're like, what better way to, number one, honor these two people and their legacy, right? Number two, have a name of a firm that has such a deep rooted meaning and can show that, this is something that's important to us, family, and important to the families we serve, that in family, those values are so important, and to our stakeholders. So one of our core values here is client equals family equals team, because we're all really part of the Mitlin family. So that's how it came about, and it's really resonated. And we've had people, that's probably one of the most asked questions we get at the firm is, where's this name? I don't understand. There's nobody here with the last name Mitlin. Where did it come from? And it's just really resonated with people.
It's funny because it is actually, when you Google Mitlin Financial, that's actually one of the things that comes up on the very first results is, what does Mitlin mean?
Right.
I wanted to make sure I got that with you, because you're right. A lot of financial advisors just make it Smith Wealth Management or Smith Financial Advising, or they pick a geographic area or a gemstone or something like Diamond Financial Management or whatever. So yours is unique, and I like that. And I wanted financial advisors to get the gears spinning in their head, not necessarily because they'll do a rebrand or anything, but sometimes you're a new financial advisors or prospective advisors who listen to the show. And I think that's some extremely valuable information for them to hear from someone who has just done something different. It's not just like local area LLC.
Yeah, I didn't see a lot of value in that, obviously, and felt like there was so much more that could be done. And it wasn't about me. It wasn't about my family. It was about really the families we serve and showing them, what we are all about. And I think we've done that just through the name alone.
I love that. From the marketing side of things, let's talk about what you're doing today. So you're on a roll. I feel like you're everywhere. You're on social media. You have your book. You have your content marketing. What are some things that you see? Because you're the guy behind the analytics. You can see the money coming into your business, all that. What are the things that are working best for you today?
Yeah, I mean, some of the things that are working best for us is really this concept around joy that we've created, right? We created this tagline a few years ago, and within the last 12 to 24 months, we've really leaned into it, and it's really resonated with people. And it's translating. I can't say that there's a direct translation, right? I think one of the challenges with marketing are there are so many levers to pull that sometimes when you have success, it's really hard to directly attach that success to one of those levers, right?
Agreed.
Usually it's a combination of a lot of levers that are being pulled. But I will tell you this, in the last couple of years, as we've leaned into this joy factor or this concept of joy, where people in the financial profession organically, on average, are only growing about 2% a year. We've grown mid double digits or higher in the last 2 years. 2024, we just wrapped up. We're in the 14-15% range. And I think in 23, we were almost hitting 20%. So we've seen that direct correlation by leaning into this joyful concept. And just to give you a framework of what that is, rather than focusing on the numbers, which I think when people come to an advisory firm, they pretty much take for granted that you should know the numbers. And if you don't, then, they probably wouldn't have walked through the door to begin with. So we concentrate a lot of what we do on this concept of joy. What's going to bring them joy in their foreseeable future? What does that look like? Then start wrapping around, what do the dollars look like? And then, I think one area that we've really, separated ourselves are, we all talk about budgets. And I think a lot of advisors do what I call budget shaming, which basically is, oh, well, you shouldn't be spending this or you shouldn't be spending that. And what we focus on is, listen, if you've budgeted for it and it brings you joy, then do it. As long as it's not going to impact things, because here's where we lie, right? We have to help people save for the future, for retirement or future, whatever that looks for them. But also, I think that we have some responsibility to make sure that they're enjoying life today and getting the most out of it. And I feel like, most advisors are focused on that end result and not the in between. And, people like my mom, for example, she never made it to that retirement age. So, you have to have that, balance in terms of being able to save for the future, enjoy today, and, work with people in a joyful way that they're going to understand and feel comfortable and understand that this money is a tool to bring them joy when all's said and done, whether it's now or in the future.
When you talk with people about using the money for joy, what are some of the responses that you've gotten? What are some things that people use the money for?
Yeah, so I mean, we've had situations where people are looking to buy second homes. They're looking to build their retirement home or their vision of a retirement home earlier than retirement, so they could get some joy along the way now. Taking trips with the family, kids, grandkids, enjoying the time that they're spending with their family and friends. There are so many things. I mean, sometimes it's as simple as, I enjoy going to that big name retailer for coffee every day. And, as you know, there's a lot of folks in our profession that, really bash that, saying, oh, well, if you didn't spend that $5 a day and you put it in a Roth IRA, after 40 years, you'd have another $100,000. Well, you know what? Maybe you're never going to live to have the $100,000. And maybe that cup of coffee really brings you a great deal of joy. If it's in your budget, you can afford it, brings you joy, and it's not affecting things, enjoy it. Have the cup of coffee, take the trip, buy the house. Those are the things that we're really leaning into.
I think I'm a little bit of a basket case because, well, people listening to the show are probably like, what? No, you? But because I tend to walk this fine line mentally of keeping all of my money and making more money and making more money, but I don't really have the desire to go out and spend it. And I get a lot of flack from financial advisors because of the concept die with zero. That has never really jived with me. I'm not a fan of the concept simply because I'm sure if someone explained it in a different way, maybe I would be. Maybe I'm just not smart enough to understand where people are coming from. I don't know. But the whole idea of rushing to spend the money just because, from my point of view, I'm not really a fan of that. I'm glad that what you're doing is different from that because you have people identify what makes them happy and then do it. It's not like a pressure thing, like you have to do it. It's just, it is what it is. If you want to spend the money, you want a second home, then you can do it. If that's part of your life goal, then that's awesome. So I appreciate that approach. For me, though, what would you say to someone like me who, I genuinely like doing the stuff that makes me money, and I truly don't spend that much. I mean, if I could show you my Amex statements right now, you'd be like, oh my goodness, spend some more money. So what should someone like me do if I just don't feel that urge at all?
Yeah, I think that's where, there's also where we separate ourselves a little bit, where we don't buy into or subscribe to this concept that everybody should be doing things this way or everybody should be doing things that way. It's really figuring out what brings you joy. Now, if it really and truly brings you joy, kind of seeing that, those balances increase and grow, then that might be right for you. There might be some underlying factors there that, might warrant us in that case to bring in an outside person to have those conversations with you, because there might be some deep rooted money issues or things that you experienced in your life. But, ultimately at the end of the day, if that's what brings you joy, great. But I think what we would do is start, with at the beginning and say, okay, James, let's take a look and, why are you doing what you're doing? Why are you getting a lot of joy from it? What else brings you joy? And really concentrate on what is your why, because I think creating that why will also give us some indication as to why you perhaps are doing things the way you are, or maybe give us some ideas and some interest in going down a different path, at looking at some different options. That maybe it's just that you've been so busy and laser focused on work that you haven't been able to expand that vision to kind of see some other areas that might be joyful to you. But ultimately, we want to meet you where you're at, wherever that is, and work with you and the families we serve to make sure that ultimately it's bringing you joy. Now, in your situation, it might be, hey, I want to accumulate this money so I can leave a legacy. Mm-hmm. And that's going to bring me a tremendous amount of joy in life, knowing, hey, I'm going to leave it for whomever or this charity. And if that's what, if that's what really is juicing you, then we want to help you do that. And it's just really identifying what that why is for that person, that family, that group, and then helping them execute it in a way that makes sense, both financially and emotionally, and creates a joyful life.
I love that. Do you mind if I share a little bit about myself? Because you mentioned you have like an experience or something that impacted you. And I remember one story that I think might shed some light on it and might be interesting for you as a financial advisor. For starters, so I took the Clifton Strengths a long time ago. It's now known as Strengths Finder. My number 2 strength is competitive or competitiveness, or whatever. Number 1 is achiever. Number 2 is competitive. I'm competing with myself. I'm competing to make the number go up. Now, time for the story. I remember a long, long time ago as a child, I must have been 6, 7, 8, somewhere around there. I remember my uncle was doing taxes, and he and his family, and I guess child labor, ran horse racing and horse stables and things like that. And harness racing, you can make a lot of money, and purses and winnings and all your totals can be super high. But your expenses are also very high. Now, he was doing taxes for himself, and at that time, his son, when I was looking at them, I was just curious, and he was open with money with me. We were not like we weren't one of those families where we didn't talk about money. We talked about money all the time. He ran a restaurant at night. He would bring home cash and receipts. I saw everything. We were open. But I specifically remember this tax time because we were looking at tax returns and from previous years, and I saw numbers. This was decades ago. I saw numbers like 400,000, 600,000 per year. And as a kid, I'm like, oh my goodness, this is a crazy amount of money. Because I put 2 and 2 together. Like, how much do my snacks cost and toys cost and things? So he was making, he may as well have been making tens of millions of dollars a year, right? And I guess adjusted for inflation, maybe he did cross that $1 million mark as of today. And but the reason that bothered me was because from the outside looking in, he was broke. And it was because of all the expenses and the capital expenditures and the investments. Like, I understand that as an adult now, but as a kid, seeing super huge number and then internalizing that ain't enough. It really, I feel like that impacted me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it did. And, we encountered that. My grandmother, for example, right? A little bit different story. She was born right in the heart of the Depression, and she saw, people with nothing. And she wasn't wealthy by any stretch, but she had enough to live the life she wanted to live. And she never felt like she had enough money. And I joke sometimes we could have printed out a bank account statement showing, $10 million and she would have still not felt comfortable. So I think for you, it's a matter of looking, you're not your uncle, you're not your uncle's business, right? You're not in the same line of business. So I don't know if you have it, but, just simply having a budget and being, more aware of, what's coming in, what's going out, because it sounds like those expenses are a little bit fearful for you from those experiences. And then maybe, setting up an emergency fund, but maybe for somebody like you, it isn't the traditional, what they talk about, 3 to 6 months. Maybe it's 12 months. Maybe it's 18 months just to get a little bit added cushion. And then figuring out where you're deriving joy from and figuring out other ways that might give you joy to utilize some of those funds, either now or in the future. And maybe now is not the right time, but maybe it's designing a game plan that right now you're in accumulation phase and there's going to come a point where between now and retirement that, some things are going to come up that will bring you joy that you want to focus in on.
Listen up, financial advisors. This is something special I'm doing exclusively for people who listen to this podcast. If you subscribe to the Inner Circle newsletter over at theadvisorcoach.com/coaching, I will send you a collection of 7 copyright-free emails personally written by me that you can use right away to begin getting more clients. I call these my objection-busting emails because they're designed to overcome the biggest objections financial advisors face. All you have to do is send me an email letting me know you've subscribed, and I will reply back with a link where you can download them for free. I originally offered these in the May 2024 Inner Circle newsletter issue, and it was one of the most popular bonuses I've ever given away. Today, these 7 objection-busting copyright-free emails are only available to listeners of this podcast because I'm not mentioning them anywhere else. Go to theadvisorcoach.com/coaching to subscribe today. Now, back to the show. That's fantastic. I have a little bit of an edge because I love travel. And thanks to business expenses and because I do a lot of online advertising, I haven't really paid that much for travel in years. So that's a little bit of a cheat code, but I don't want to go on too much about that. I want to get back to the marketing stuff. Maybe that's psychological avoidance on my part. Who knows? But what has not worked for you from a marketing perspective? Is there anything that you have tried over the past 20 years that has kind of fizzled out or has been a disappointment for you so financial advisors can learn from your experience?
So I will say this. I will say that one of the challenges or the mistakes I made from a marketing standpoint was not sharing my authentic self and my life. And I can't say that that was a mistake in terms of money, where it cost me money, but I can say I feel pretty confident that it cost me new business, new opportunities. It cost me time, which may be as valuable as money, because it was really, about 5 or 6 years ago that I really leaned into sharing a lot of my personal life and my personal stuff out there in, social media, my book, my podcast, et cetera. And we've seen a huge trajectory as a result of doing that. So it wasn't something that I focused in on and kind of, spent thousands or tens of thousands of dollars on. But I really feel like if I would have leaned into things a little bit sooner, that our trajectory would have even been more of a hockey stick than it was. And that was a mistake. And that's something that I encourage all advisors, anybody, entrepreneurs, period, any business people, that they should lean into their authentic self and share with the world.
So if you could go back to yourself 20 years ago on day one, or at least year one, is that the advice that you would give? You would say, Larry, show more of yourself, show more of your human side, be more authentic.
100%. I don't know that I would have been able to do it 20 years ago in the fashion you could do it today with social media and online and et cetera. But if that was possible for somebody coming out today, right, who's in the environment, absolutely. If that was available, I would certainly lean into that. I'll share with you a quick story just to exemplify it. And this was really the thing that put me over the edge. My family and I, about 5-6 years ago, went on a trip to South Africa. And that was really when I decided to lean in on it. I was like, right before that, my wife was really pushing me. She's our director of marketing to be more authentic, share stuff. And I was like, people don't want to see this, hear this. So we went on the trip. I'm like, let's see what happens. So we put out like a video every day on this trip, while we went from Cape Town to Johannesburg, and we were on safari with the animals, and we put out a video and some commentary each and every day. And when I got back, I got an email from one of the families that we serve, and she said, thank you. She was older. She had COPD, so she couldn't really leave the house much because she was on oxygen. She said, South Africa was on my bucket list. It was a place I always wanted to go. And she goes, I was never going to be able to get there, but I logged in every single day to see what you and your family were up to and feel like I was on that trip with you and got to experience South Africa with you and your family. And she goes, I just want to thank you so much for sharing all those great posts, the videos, the animals, because it really, made my, week or 10 days, what have you. And that was the email that kind of locked it in for me. That was like, dang, I messed up. This should have been going on for a much longer time. And that's really what sealed the deal. Because when you have an impact like that on one person who's telling you, there are probably others that are feeling the same way, but they may not have sent that email or commented on the post or something along those lines.
That is 100% true. And I wish more financial advisors, if they don't listen to me when I say that, I hope they listen to you, because it works, period. And I'll tell you, I have been helping advisors since 2015. So I have probably encountered your stuff. I mean, it's just like you have waves on top of the ocean and then you have currents under. Like you only see the waves, you don't see the currents. Like that's kind of like how I've operated over the years. And I've seen so many financial advisors, only a few stick in my mind. That when you stuck in my mind, here is what happened. I remember on social media, you posted like, which hockey arena am I in? And that was what did it for me. You probably don't even remember. Do you remember that? Like
I still do series? Them.
Okay.
Yeah. We've done them for a very long time. We started doing it. I think we were doing like every week because I've been to a lot of rinks, and that really came out of we did a LinkedIn post many years ago, and of my son in a game and in a bad situation, and he ended up basically working his way out of the situation and scoring a game-winning goal. And the comments on the post were kind of unique because we were trying to teach a lesson and people started guessing what rink I was at.
That's crazy.
People from the hockey. So we were like, hey, let's do this. So we started posting videos of me at different rinks, having people guess and naming a charity of their choice. And we would pick a winner each week and donate $100 to charity in their name. And it took off, and people really, really resonated with people. And, we did, I believe we stopped it for this season, but it kind of ran its course. But it was great, and we really enjoyed the experience, and it was a lot of fun too.
I like to pay attention to marketing that works on me, and whenever it works on me. But there's an old saying that like people who sell for a living are the easiest to sell to. So maybe I don't know, but I have a feeling that when I notice something, simply because I have so much stuff in front of me, when I notice something that stands out, it's pretty darn good. And to me, that hockey thing, it's like, this is it. And that's forever cemented in my memory because it stuck out and I remember it. And that is pretty cool. So financial advisors who are listening, you just got a golden piece of advice. And if you don't have to be a hockey fan, it could be anything in your life, anything that you love. I'm being dead serious. And I have seen Larry's like social media pages. I've seen the comments because that's what stuck out in my mind. It did work. So very valuable insight. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Yeah. And I would say, I think the takeaway for me is, and should be for the listeners too, and I'm sure you would agree, the financial stuff is table stakes. People don't care about that. That kind of goes in one ear and out the other. It's the other stuff that really resonates with people and humanizes you and builds connection with those other people. So, don't take that as, you don't want to be like talking about, going through the top 100, parts of the Secure Act and doing that every week or something like that. I don't know that would resonate as much.
I think the number one piece of LinkedIn advice that I give financial advisors that also happens to be the number one most ignored piece of advice is to have genuine conversations with people, period. And the tactical reason for that is sometimes I'll have financial advisors who ask me, it feels silly not to ask for the business or not to pitch them or not to talk about my services and how awesome I am. I'm like, listen to this. Just understand how important this is. This applies elsewhere, but on LinkedIn specifically. LinkedIn prioritizes content in the feed based on prior engagement. Meaning, if financial advisor A messages 100 people and only gets 5 responses, then the 95 people who did not respond are not going to see the financial advisor's feed as often in the content and in their feeds, their content in the feeds. The reason that's so important is because the content is a form of follow-up. It is staying in front of them. It's the hockey thing that I literally just talked about financial advisors with Larry. Let's say financial advisor B only messages 25 people but gets 24 responses. Well, then financial advisor B's content is going to show up far more often in the feed for those 24 people. And that becomes a snowball, and it gets bigger and it gets bigger and it gets bigger. So Larry, when financial advisors just tell me, well, wait, why can't I pitch? Why can't I just tell them that I'm so awesome and that I'm a financial advisor and I help people like them? It's because of that content. And I'm sure that you have seen that. I don't know if you are guilty of the like pitch. I don't think you are.
I know I did. We do not. We basically want to bring people to the point when and if they're ready, we want to be top of mind and have them come to us. And, I'll give you a great example. There's a family that I went to grade school with the husband. Okay. I had not seen him maybe since grade school, but we were connected. This was actually on Facebook, but we're connected across the board. And just turns out 2024, he's retiring. He reached out to me, said, I'm retiring. Hey, I've known you for 40 years. And, he felt connected to me over the last probably 10 or 15 years because of Facebook. We never saw each other since we were probably 10 years old. But, that connection was built and solid enough that when he was ready, he reached out. And I never asked him when he was retiring, never asked him what he was doing with his financial situation. He came to us. And I think that's your point. You really want to just be there, be ready, and be available for when that comes. Because I think it also saves time. Because if everybody's contacting you and you're pitching them and they're willing to meet with you, you're going to have to go through a lot of meetings that aren't going to be successful, right? Versus having people reach out to you and say, hey, I'm ready. You got me. Let's work together. And, that's a much different course.
I agree. And I wish more advisors would listen. They just, a lot of it comes from just neediness and desperation and just not believing that, I guess, they're worthy of having people reach out to them. There are tons of deeper reasons why advisors don't do it. One thing I want to make sure I get on the show, because I think the show would not be as impactful for financial advisors if we didn't talk about your book, Financial Planning Made Personal. What got you started? What inspired you to start that process of writing a book?
Yeah, so it was like 10 plus years in the making. As I mentioned earlier, and we've talked a lot about a lot of the concepts that are in the book, but really, I was really bothered for a long time with this whole notion that these quote unquote pundits that are out there, and you could put whatever name you want to what I'm about to say, would always say, everybody should be doing this and everybody should be doing that. And I was like, that doesn't work for everybody. This specific thing, this doesn't work. This doesn't work. And it really bothered me. So it was really a pushback on that kind of concept that was out there. And then the second thing was this joy factor. I didn't feel like there was enough joy. I felt like everything was focused on the numbers and not necessarily on what does this money really going to do? How is it going to serve the family that is out there? So it was a long time in the making. I finally had the time in 2023 to sit down and do the book and release it, and it's been a hit ever since. And we've recently added a the Joy and Productivity Journal to that kind of package as well, which basically now it's almost like a gratitude journal, except you focus on joy, and you can use it as a journaling tool so you can understand how your money is best serving you.
So this is something that happens with podcast episodes with guests. People get to the show not necessarily because of me, but because of you, the guest. So for anyone who has gotten to this episode by searching Larry Sprung or Mitlin Financial, then please go to Amazon and get Financial Planning Made Personal and read it. And you'll probably like Larry a lot more. Because I know I did. I read the book. And this is true. I sent you a photo on LinkedIn messages when you messaged me about something. I got back to you. I was like, looky here. This is the book that I'm reading. So It was a very, I think synchronicity is the right word, or serendipity, one of those two. It was meant to be, I guess.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that support. It's greatly appreciated.
What are your goals for the future? So we're recording this in January 2025. Let's say that we're traveling in time to December 31st, 2025, or maybe 5 years, 10 years, however you want to answer this. What things would you like to have accomplished or have done in the future?
Yeah, so we have some exciting stuff for 2025. We have a wait list for our upcoming webinar, The Power of Positive Money Conversations. And basically, if people or advisors are interested in learning how we're having these powerful, positive money conversations, they can go to joyfuladvisor.com. They can get on the wait list. And basically, what we're going to be looking to do is unlock the secrets to a joy-driven practice in the webinar. And we're going to share, kind of pull back the curtain and show them how these positive money conversations can transform their approach and help their practice grow too by building genuine connections. So we're taking to the next level, and we're looking to share this information with the world. So that is our passion, and our big project for 2025 is getting that packaged up and the webinar released. So we have people signing up as we speak, and we're looking forward to roll that out later this year.
That is fantastic. So joyfuladvisor.com. I'm going there right now just to make sure that it will be out or available by the time the podcast is out. And
it is. It's up and ready. And all you have to do to get on the wait list is give us your name and email, and that's it. A very light lift, and get on the list, and then we'll be able to share with you that release when it comes out.
Awesome. I'm going to wrap this up. You've been so incredibly generous with your time. I appreciate you sharing what has worked, what hasn't worked, what you want to do in the future, some stuff with your clients, that how you help them figure out how they derive joy from their lives. And this has certainly brought me joy. If financial advisors want to get in touch with you, how can they do so? Yes, it's joyfuladvisor.com. Is there anything else that you would like to add?
Yeah, so I mean, they could always go to LinkedIn. I'm always on there, and I'm very active. And they could always go to the website as well. We have number of points of contact, but they certainly can go to that joyfuladvisor.com if they're looking to have more powerful, positive money conversations, because that'll be releasing this year.
Financial advisors, this has been an incredible conversation. I hope you take a lot from it, because I know a lot of you listening right now can have these positive money conversations with your clients, and it will make a great deal of difference, not only in your life, but in your clients' lives as well. And thank you so much, Larry, again. And as always, I will catch you next week.
This is thepodcastfactory.com.